Hey, sorry everybody. I had a technical issue. Oh my gosh. All right, let me get back in here. Greetings all, by the way, before things went haywire. Let me get back to the live stream dashboard. Welcome to another Chords of Orion QA session. Today's session, what I'd like to do, sorry, I'm just back in. Yeah, Smoke the Leaf, right. It is clipping. How is the sound now? If somebody can just let me know if it's okay. So what I'd like to do on today's live stream, answer some questions, anything you might have. And as you can see, I also have the Strymon BigSky queued up and ready to go. As a matter of fact, I was playing with the Bloom reverb type. Great. Oh, cool. So it sounds like we've got some good sound going on. Great. Welcome, everybody. So let's see. Who do we have on? I see. Is it Raisanga? Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Hey, we will walk through walls. Ricardo, Amber, Ricardo, Rajai, Amber, yeah, Ricardo, great. Jaros Wave. Alien Spore Bomb. I don't know that one, man. That sounds like a movie to me. Hey, Tim, how's it going? And Neil, good to see you on the live stream. And let's see, we have Spiral Drop Band. Great. And Gulp2 and Ricky. Hey, greetings all. So anyhow, what I'm going to do is just I'm going to keep watching the chat. So if there are any specific questions we want to kind of talk about and chat about, we can do that. And Jaros Wave already says, I'm most interested in the spring reverb. So let's start with that. I will kind of try to keep up, but as the chat window kind of goes up, I may not see your initial question. If it's looking like I'm ignoring it, I'm really not. Just ask it again. Anyhow, let's go ahead and start with the spring a little bit. And here we go. So the spring type's kind of interesting on the BigSky. Here's kind of a basic sound here. And I'm not a huge fan of spring style reverbs, but this one does have some interesting capabilities. So you all may know that that value knob I'm pointing at is allows you to access the parameters. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, get into parameters, and let's just take a look at a couple of things that the spring reverb has going on. One is low end, and another one is dwell, which is really kind of interesting. So you've got a couple of options here for dwell. Let me get my hand out of the way. So first up is the option for tube, and then you've got a DVR, DRV, and then you've got a combo and a clean. So these all give you different spring characters. So for example, here's a clean. And here's a combo. And then the tube. And you can kind of hear the tonality changes. I kind of flip back and forth. And then the final one. Yeah, that one's... I'm not big into that one. Not me personally. No. Somebody else might be. So I'm going to put it back to tube, and another one that's interesting is the number of springs available. So you've got 1, 2, or 3 springs. So there's 3. Here's 2. And 1. So, yeah, I kind of like the 3. And then decay on this guy is not super long. Well, it's kind of long. It's 10 seconds. Okay, so those are some spring sounds. Their pre-delay is, I believe, is available. Yeah. Which is kind of nice. You don't normally get that on a real guitar amp spring reverb unit. Then there's the usual tone knob. And I won't repeat this for everything we go through, but we got tone, and then on the BigSky, the parameter 1 and parameter 2 knobs, they vary depending on the reverb type. For spring, it's going to be low end, and then the other one is the dwell. So kind of cool. And then finally, you can even do some, I believe you can do modulation. Yeah. So you can do modulation on a spring reverb. Okay, so those are some spring reverb sounds. Let me look back here. Let's see. All right, let me go through here. Alien Spore Bomb, you do film scores. Cool. That's pretty wild. Any tips on how to create a hammockish sound on the BigSky? I guess it depends on the hammock sound. We can try a couple things here. Let me show you in a couple minutes. Let's see. Eddie is asking, what power supply do you recommend? On my pedal board, I use a Strymon Zuma, which I've been very pleased with. One of the reasons I went with that is because all of the 9-volt outlets have at least 500 milliamps worth of power. So you can power, a pretty good array of the larger pedals, which I kind of like. What's my favorite reverb out of all the reverbs available? Neil, do you mean on the BigSky? I'm not sure I have a favorite. There's some nice ones. Cloud, the Corral. We can go over some of those. I'll kind of run through a few. Let's see. How does it compare to the new Line 6 reverbs? I got to tell you, I think some of the Line 6 reverbs on my HX Stomp I like, but the BigSky reverbs I think in general sound better, which kind of makes sense. You're paying, a lot of money for a dedicated reverb pedal. They should sound pretty good. So that's my take on it. If you want to stay strictly Line 6, you can definitely get some good reverb tones. There's no doubt. Amber Leaf, have you ever been in a band or performed live? Yes. So I played in an old school prog rock band for about 15 years in the kind of the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area here in the U.S. So that's kind of around Washington, D.C. So I did that for a long time. We played a lot of different bars and clubs, including one of the original punk bars. Don't ask me why we were allowed to play prog rock in a punk bar, but the guy was really nice and will let us play there. So yeah, did that a lot. All right. Favorite setting? Yeah, let's overcrowded. With effects, how do you know when too much is too much? That's a great question, Max. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So if you've got a texture in mind, whatever that might be, it could be a very clean, crisp texture, or it could be a very, a very diffused kind of texture, whatever it might be. Sorry, I thought I heard something on the other side of my studio. But whatever it might be, I think if your effects are accomplishing what you're trying to achieve, then it's not too much. If you go overboard and you kind of achieved what you're looking to achieve and then think, oh, I need a little more. That's probably when you're going too much. Also, if you're playing, for example, a lead part and you have so many effects that you can't control it while you're playing the lead, for example, that's probably too much. You can dial that back. Low rumbling from the reverb itself. Are you hearing a low rumbling now? If there's a hum, it's probably from my guitar and maybe the amp modeler. So I'll try to keep the volume turned down while I'm not playing. Okay, yeah, more line 6. I don't think it's line 6 versus this algorithm, right? So it's neither one or the other. It's what accomplishes what you're trying to achieve in your sound. What's the price point on for the BigSky? I don't remember. It seems like it's in the mid $400 US. It's not a cheap pedal for sure. And by the way, I did purchase this one, so I really, really wanted the BigSky, so I went ahead and bought it. Strymon has sent me some demo pedals, but I really like to support them. And I do other companies that I also like. For example, TC Electronic, they'll send me demo pedals, but I also buy a bunch of TC Electronic pedals just because I like them. I want to support them. Is the channel, I'm from the DC area. Hey, John, what was the name of the band? It was back in the late 70s through about 1990, 91. The name of the band was Tetelestai, Tetelestai. It's a Greek word. Yeah, we were geeky musician types. Is the channel name, does it come from Orion and the picture is Orion's belt? Yes, so the channel name is a play on a phrase from the Old Testament. So in the Christian, actually it's in the Hebrew and the Christian Bible. There's a book called Job, and at the end God asked Job, who's the main character in that part of the Bible, asks him a question and says, can you loose the chords of Orion? And so that refers to the belt of the Orion constellation, which is kind of cool. So I kind of did a play on words. Instead of C-O-R-D-S, it's guitar chord. So yeah, that's what it is. Let's see, reverb stacking. Would you use the BigSky as your always-on reverb or another reverb pedal? BigSky at the end of the chain. I would probably put the BigSky at the end of the chain. That is what I typically do when I've got a couple going. So let's say I've got the TC Electronic Hall of Fame or maybe the Source Audio Ventris. I will typically put those in front of the BigSky. And then I'll dial in a more subtle reverb on the BigSky just to fill in. I feel like I've got a tutorial or kind of walkthrough video on that kind of topic somewhere. If I can find it, I'll post it in the comments on this after after the live chat's over. BigSky looks too complex. I thought so too, but once I got used to the parameter knob and kind of working with it, I've found that it's not so bad. I can usually get a sound that I like pretty quickly, within a minute or less. In particular, now that I know what all the reverb types kind of sound like. How good is the Hall of Fame 2 compared to the Strymon BigSky? It's a lot cheaper than the BigSky. So you certainly have to I factor that into the equation, right? It's kind of a value proposition. For the money, I feel like it's hard to beat the TC Electronic Hall of Fame 2. I think it's really good for general reverbs. I think the BigSky has a broader, deeper, it's broader and has more depth in the types of reverb sounds that you can produce. Let's see. Hi from Turkey. Hey, Mert, how are you? Okay, so let me flip to another reverb type for a minute. I'll keep watching the questions, but let me flip to another reverb type. And I'm going to flip to the Bloom, which I think is a really interesting reverb type. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let's bring the pre-delay down. So even when the pre-delay is almost off, the Bloom really has, it truly does have a blooming type of reverb tone to it. I like that a lot. So let's check out some of the parameters here. It's got the usual low end, and this is, I do like this on the BigSky. You can really kind of dial in the low end. Sometimes with a reverb, it's helpful to dial out some of the low end so it does not sound as muddy. That's especially helpful when you're playing in a band situation. At least I think. Then there's a length. So this is actually the length of the Bloom. So if I turn it down so it's short, you can hear it's a lot more immediate. Of course, I'm going to turn it all the way up. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, and then we've got feedback. So we can kind of, this is a feedback control, right? There we go. We'll turn that feedback all the way up. Of course we will. Yeah, that's cool. And then we've got boost, and I'll mention the, let me turn the feedback down just a bit. There we go. Then we have boost. They all the reverb types have a boost option, which allows you to level essentially the volume between your patches. All right, so if we bring the mix all the way up and increase the decay time, and this one does go to 20 seconds, let's hear what we end up with. Yeah, isn't it? That's a nice sound. I really like that. Let's bring that mix all the way up and bring the tone down a little bit. And this will be just the wet signal. I don't know. Whoever asked the question about a hammockish sound, do you think that's kind of? I feel like that's kind of off in the direction, don't you think? Yeah, I could see that fitting in with some of the textures that those guys get. Okay, let me look a little bit through the questions here. What's my favorite setting on the BigSky? Again, I'm not sure I have an absolute favorite. The Bloom I really like a lot. I do find myself using the Cloud. Just partially because of the great tail on that reverb. It's really good for volume swells. Let's see, is the Electro-Harmonix Holy Grail still a good pedal? You know, if you thought it was a good pedal 5 years ago, there's no reason why it's not still a good pedal. And this is the thing I think we sometimes, I know I do, I sometimes forget about pedals, is the value that a pedal has never changes, right? If you bought it for, I'm looking around for a pedal that I can, well, sorry, this is not a sponsored video, okay? Really. This thing is still sitting on my desk. So if I pick up a pedal and say, oh, this pedal has some kind of value that I like, 5 years later, it really still has the same value. It hasn't changed. Now, whether you still value it, maybe that's another question, right? Maybe your needs have changed and moved beyond whatever that pedal does. So I would say if you felt like it was a good pedal, the Holy Grail, when it came out, it's still a good pedal. Oh, you got to see, hey, Alien Spore Bomb. I got to see Steve Roach at Ambicon back in 2013. Oh, that would have been awesome, I'm sure. Yeah, great. Let's see, Zorg. Do I play guitar in decent, proper style with sentences, melodies, or shred rhythm, stuff like that? Okay, so kind of more the standard song style, maybe with a band, that type of thing. On electric guitar, not so much anymore because I've really focused on the Chords of Orion stuff that I've done for the last 5 years or so. Now, if you go into acoustic guitar, yes, I play a lot of more standard style guitar. In particular, I like to play acoustic finger style, and it's going to sound weird, but I like to play bluegrass. I really enjoy that a lot, and those are more kind of standard song styles of music. Let's see. Gray Sky, you love the Gray Skies, right? RED, great. RV3, great. So glad to hear you're still getting value from the RV3, and that's a great example. That pedal had value when it came out. It has the same value now. It has the same sound. You can get the same value out of it that you got before. Hey, yeah, Muhammad Reza, I'm doing fine. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I hope you are too. Um, I'm sorry YouTube didn't notify you, but still got plenty of time. Hi, would I talk about drones and how to do it? Yeah, actually, I have a playlist of creating drones. So real quick, just to talk about them, there are a couple of ways to create drones when you're playing. One is to use a looper, and you can put that looper either before or after reverbs and delays. I usually put it before reverbs, or delays and reverbs, keep it in the right order. I usually put the looper in front of the delays and reverbs, but whatever sounds best to you, put it there, and then just record maybe a 5 or 6 second loop of a single note, or maybe 2 notes, like an E and a B. Right, and then let that loop just kind of go, and that can be your drone, and then you can solo on top of it or play chords on top. Another way to do drones is to get a delay pedal that allows you to set the feedback or repeats very high without it going into self-oscillation. In other words, it doesn't go crazy, but it just repeats almost endlessly. The TC Electronic Flashback Triple Delay has 1 or 2 delay types that kind of act like that, and I use those sometimes for drones. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Let me go back here. Drone. How do you feel? Yeah, the BigSky sounds too trebly. I don't think it does if you control the high end with the tone knob. At least that's my opinion. So if I turn the tone knob all the way down and play a little bit, I mean, to me, that does not sound too trebly. But if I turn the tone knob all the way up, that's pretty trebly. So I think you've got a pretty good range of tone within the BigSky. What are my thoughts on comparing I don't know anything about the Behringer reverb machine to the BigSky. I've never used one, so I really don't have any thoughts about that. Levi, have I ever read any of the Gnostic texts? If you mean the sorry guys, I'm going to go like geeky theology for like 10 seconds and then I'm going to stop. Promise. If you mean some of the pseudepigraphal writings, yes, I have. I don't believe they're authoritative though. So, okay, I'm done now. Let's move on. Let's see here. Okay, Phantom. I love that. Yes, I'm going to call you Phantom. All right. Awesome. Thank you. Do I like using fuzz in my music? Sometimes I do. So I've got a couple of videos here where I'm using the Electro Harmonics Cockfight, which has a really nice fuzz sound along with some wah capabilities. So I do that, but I have to say not very often. I'm more focused on more amp style, amp style overdrives. If I've got access to reverbs in my DAW, how can I justify buying a nice pedal? And then, so Emil asks that Alien Spore Bomb, it's hard to bring a DAW on stage for live performances. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a great point. Great question and a great point. I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you are recording strictly, you could very well get away without a reverb pedal at all. As a matter of fact, for many of my performances, recorded performances, not so much here on YouTube now, but on other, if I'm just recording for Spotify or whatever, I don't use a reverb pedal. I use a reverb plugin so I can control it in the mix. So yeah, absolutely. Depends on what you're trying to do. Power supply. Yeah, Dave, I don't know if you were here earlier, but it's the Strymon Zuma is my main power supply. What are my thoughts on the Super Ego Plus and its ability to be ambient? I think it can be very ambient. I would actually like to get one at some point and try it out. But everything I've heard, to me, it sounds like you could make good use of it in an ambient context. Cab Modeler on the BigSky. I don't normally use it because I use an amp and cab simulation. Like right now, I'm using the Line 6 HX Stomp, and the BigSky is in the effects loop. But I have used the cab simulator from the BigSky a few times. I don't remember exactly which videos. Have to go back and look, but I have used it a couple times, and you can get some nice sounds out of it for sure. Let's see. Volume pedals break. What are some more durable options? I am a total fan of the Morley Little Alligator. I've had mine for 15 years, and it works great. And I will tell you all that Morley reached out to me recently, and they said, "Hey, we saw a video. Would you like to try one of our other volume pedals?" And I said, "Great, I'd love to try it. And oh, by the way, I've been a fan of yours since the late 70s. And I'm not lying. My first Morley volume pedal I purchased in the late 1970s. I've had 3 or 4 over the years. And they are very durable. One of the things that I'm sounding like a commercial for Morley. They're not paying me. Really, really, really. One of the things I really like about Morley, the active volume pedals, is that they have an optical circuit with no string. So there's nothing to break there, and they are built very, very sturdily. So yeah, as we get into the new year, I'll have a couple more demos of some Morley volume pedals coming online, and then if you're interested, check them out, and then you can kind of decide if it might be right for you. Hey, Charlie, I don't know if TC Electronics done with doing large pedal effects. I really couldn't say. I do know, obviously, Behringer acquired them a few years ago. They still seem to be building, kind of have the same focus, you know what I mean? But yeah, I have no idea. What do you think about differences between amp reverb and reverb pedals? I prefer reverb pedals. Again, I'm not a big fan of spring reverbs, which are typically the traditional reverb type in amplifiers. To get a clean tone with, oh man, this is, sorry. Okay, here we go. Sorry, the chat window is like moving like really fast, and I'm having trouble keeping it straight. Anyhow, clean tone, yeah. So I like to use an amp simulator. So again, in this, what I'm doing right now, I'm using the Line 6 HX Stomp. Let me turn off the BigSky for a minute. Actually, and there's a little bit of grit that I've got dialed up. But that's just coming from essentially the gain control on the amp. So if I turned it back down, it would clean up really nicely. So the way I generally get a clean tone for me is I like to use a Fender amp model. So that could be a twin reverb or deluxe reverb, whatever kind of Fender amp model might be available to you. And then for the cabinet, I actually really prefer running the Fender amp model into a Marshall style 4x12 cabinet simulation. To me, that provides it gives you more low end, which I really like. But the Fender amp model gives you more of that sparkle on top. So that's what I always use for my clean tone. Let's see. RV3, yeah. Carlos, if you're getting good tones out of it, great. You know, it certainly is kind of a classic reverb pedal at this point. Why not use Kemper? Thoughts on Kemper? I've never tried a Kemper, so I don't really have any thoughts on it, other than it costs a lot of money. But I've heard some really great results with a Kemper. So, what's the best way to EQ the RV500 to get the Strymon sound, especially the cloud? Well, if you want a Strymon sound, I think you're going to have to get a Strymon reverb pedal. The RV500 is a really great sounding pedal, and maybe next year I'll do another live stream where I've got the RV500 set up instead of the BigSky. But it's not a Strymon. It has a Boss sound, not a Strymon sound. So I think it's best to think of them as two different things. And if you really, really, really want one sound over the other, you're probably going to want to get that pedal. Let's see. Plugins versus pedals sound qualities. I have found that plugins, if you get the right plugin, they sound wonderful. If you get the right pedal, it sounds wonderful. So I really think it depends, again, on each pedal and each plugin. Both of them can do the job. BigSky or Tempest Specular? Well, I've got a Tempest Specular on the way. I don't know if you guys saw my recent video, What Pedal Should I Demo? A lot of people ask about the Tempest Specular, so I reached out to them, and they happened to reach out to me. They saw that and said, "Hey, would you like us to send you a demo unit?" And I said, "Yes, please. Thank you very much." So yeah, I'll be able to do that. Maybe we can do a comparison between the two. What's my take on multi-effects pedals? Well, I'm using one right now, the Line 6 HX Stomp. I've come to really like it. I did the video about it being an octopus and being hard to hook up, and I still stand by my comments on that video. But in fact, it sounds really good. I like it a lot. That being said, I love the Avid 11 rack, which I've had for about 9 years, and its successor, the Headrush pedal board. They all sound wonderful too. And I've gotten good results with the Boss GT1000. So, and then there's the Line 6 FX100, the Amplify FX100. That's a lower cost multi-effects unit. I think they all have some really good sounds in them. So I would not be afraid to look around and find a multi-effects pedal that you like. Just make sure it has the features that will work for you. For example, the inputs and outputs. If you need an effects loop, make sure you understand whether it's stereo or mono, that sort of thing. Make sure the features work for what you need. Do I use the magneto setting on the BigSky in my songs? Not really. Let's go to the magneto here. Let's try that out. Oh, let's turn it on and try it out. There we go. It's definitely a really cool sound. Yeah, so the magneto's kind of cool, isn't it? It's got a little spring vibe going to it, I think at least, but it's got a whole different dimension to it, especially with the kind of the delay thing going. But to date, I have not used it, I don't think, on any of my recordings. Jeremy, what's the best minimalist ambient setup? Are you going to use an amp modeler or a real guitar amp? If let's say you're using a guitar amp, I would say minimalist ambient setup would be a simple compressor into an amp style overdrive pedal, into a volume pedal, into a delay pedal. So I think with those 4 pedals, just going into a regular guitar amp, there's a lot you can do with it. As a matter of fact, that was kind of my signal chain for about 10 or 12 years in the old progressive rock band. And as I sometimes go back and listen to some of the old recordings, it's like, whoa, I kind of like that sound. I still like some of the tones I got. Now, they are simpler and maybe less textured, less number of textures than some of the sounds I get now with multiple pedals. But still, you can. It's a good place to start and then kind of expand from there. When I'm doing ambient music, tape saturation, I often find myself falling into the same patterns. Do I have any tips to break the behavior? Yes, I do have a couple of suggestions. One is to listen to and learn different styles of music. So if all you're doing is playing ambient style music where, maybe you're just doing hours of volume swells. Okay, I'm exaggerating some, right? But if it's all really just off in that direction and you're never working on anything else, then I think you're going to be at risk of falling into repetitive types of patterns in your playing. So get out, learn some other styles. There's some great ambient players that also are metal players, right? They can play very fast lead lines. Maybe they know how to shred or sweep pick, whatever it is. And or like me, for example, as I mentioned, I like to play bluegrass and fingerstyle acoustic, and I think it helps bring different ideas to the electric guitar, in particular with ambient styles of music. Let's see. I know you're interested in progressive rock and bluegrass. Which other genres are your favorites? So prog rock, bluegrass. I love jazz, classical. I studied a lot of classical music when I was in college, so I still get out my old scores, like, for example, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. I love to get out the actual score and read the symphony as it's playing, so I can. If you haven't done that, if you know how to read music, get a symphony score and read the score as the symphony plays. You will understand that music so much better than before you do that. So, a lot of classical music. So, I don't know. I like a lot of different styles. I am not so much into more of the really heavier styles of rock music. full on metal. That's and I think part of that's due to, unfortunately, part of that's due to my age, right? So in my formative years, that wasn't a thing, right? So other styles were a thing. So I think some of the things that really kind of burned their way into my brain were a lot earlier than the rise of some of those things. Um, I'm old enough that I remember when, for example, when Black Sabbath kind of hit the scene, which they were obviously a precursor to some of the more modern metal styles. So yeah, so that's kind of it. How much bigger is the blue sky than the original, or the big sky than the blue sky? So you can see on the big sky. Look at switches A and B. Sorry, I couldn't remember what they were called. That is, and just a little bit wider than that is about the width of the blue sky. And then the big sky has enough room for that third switch. So that's kind of the size difference. Joyous Monkey, should I save up for the blue sky, or do I have thoughts on the blue sky, or should I save up for the big sky? Again, I think it depends on what you're looking to do. It's interesting. The Strymon smaller pedals have a more limited set of features, no, that's the wrong thing. They have a more limited set of sounds that they do. For example, the dig only does kind of like the dotted eighth and dotted 16th types of delays, but since that's all it does it really well. So my feeling on the blue sky, and I'm saying this, I've never actually used a blue sky. My feeling on the blue sky is probably the same. It does those few reverb types that it does really well. But if you're looking for a broader set of capabilities, the big sky is probably a better option to save up for. Have I tried any Empress pedals? No, I have not. I would love to, though. Hopefully, sometime in 2019, I'll be able to get my hands on an Empress pedal or two. Ventris versus the Big Sky. Are there things unique to the Big Sky? Yes, there are, and there are things that are unique to the Ventris. So it's really worth kind of checking out the features on each to decide which is best for you. The Ventris is a great reverb pedal, but again, it does not do Strymon types of sounds. It doesn't. You can't get the I don't believe you can get the signature Strymon kind of sound from a Ventris. The Ventris, however, has a great source audio sound. Hope that makes sense. And it does have a lot of great spring reverb sounds in particular. So if you're into spring reverbs, that is a great option. I actually like the Ventris spring reverb better than the Big Sky. And you can run two different reverbs at a time with the Ventris, which is very, very cool. So they're kind of different animals. Any tips on the hold function on the Big Sky? No specific tips, although if you're using the hold capability, think about how your overall texture is going to change while you're holding or freezing, as it were, the reverb. And you may actually want to be stacking reverbs, you know what I mean, so that you have a more standard reverb sound kind of layering in while you're using the hold capability on the Big Sky to produce more of a drone kind of a texture. Hope that makes sense. Let's see. What do I think of whammy and reverb to create shimmer? Hey, if it gets a sound that you like, I think that's great. So again, this is the cool thing about pedals. There's no one right way. There's no one best way. There's no one best pedal for anything. I think it's all about the results that you get and the sound that you're trying to achieve. So Carlos, if you've gotten cool sounds with the whammy and a reverb, then that's awesome. Absolutely. Hey Jake, you're getting an RV500? Awesome. You're going to like it. Eddie's Guitars, lend me my beard. No way. No way. I like my beard. I've had it for a long, long time. I don't know what I look like underneath the beard, and I don't want to find out. Hey, Ricky. Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad that that the content here has been useful for you. I really appreciate the comment. What do I think about using a reverb pedal for a flute through a mic? That would be interesting to try. I think it could work really well. The one thing you might need to be careful with a microphone is making sure that you've got a microphone with a very limited pickup range. So in other words, you wouldn't want to use an omnidirectional mic because I'd be afraid of feedback, and then actually the reverb sound itself coming back into the mic and making it sound muddy. But I think with the right mic, you could probably get some really nice sounds. And I would also include delay pedals in there with a flute. So I've heard, I play flute, and in the band that I played in long, long ago, there are a bunch of recordings that we did with me playing flute with delay, and I really like that sound a lot. Hello, is it Junya? And please forgive me for mispronouncing for those of you from other countries. I only speak English, so I have very little knowledge of other languages, and I apologize for that. I think it's awesome that you all can communicate in English. I feel somewhat inadequate because I can't communicate in your languages. But anyhow, hello also from the USA to Japan. And yes, so glad to have you on the live stream. Okay, let's see. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. What is my process for songs I release on my albums? For Chords of Orion music, I am very much into improvising. So whether I'm playing a performance here on the channel or whether I'm strictly doing a recording, I tend to think about a texture or a couple of small phrases, or if maybe I'm interested in a traditional song, an old public domain traditional song, and I kind of think about that as kind of a basis for whatever I'm going to record. And then to be honest, I'll typically go down into the studio here and I'll practice for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'll turn the recorder on and start recording and see what comes out. That's really kind of what I do. At some point in the future, I may do more structured compositions. I used to do that a lot. I've got a lot of very structured compositions that I've actually written out, but I don't do that at this point in my life. In particular, with trying to produce multiple videos for YouTube every week, it's better for me to be very improvisatory in creating music. Am I inspired by church or worship music? Yes, I did in my How to Play Ambient Guitar series from a couple of years ago, I did an episode on traditional tunes, and the examples that I gave were old traditional Christian hymns, which I really love. That's kind of in my background, right? So some of them I don't like. They're really cheesy, but the better hymn tunes are, oh yeah, some of them are just so beautiful. And again, because I'm religious that way, the words also have meaning to me. And, that may not be a factor for listeners, but for me personally, it's a factor. So I definitely have that inspiration. Also, the titles for my songs typically come from poets. In particular, John Donne, William Wordsworth, E. Cummings, and some others like those. I really gain a lot of inspiration from poetry. All right, Strymon Zuma, power supply. Yes, absolutely. Putting Vern T22, putting the delay after the volume pedal is crucial. Yes, so you can do it either way. if you don't want to change the gain structure of delay after. Yeah. So was that the question? Okay. So delay after volume pedal is crucial. Yes. Sorry, I misread that, Vern. It's absolutely crucial. Otherwise, when you bring the volume pedal back, you'll cut the delay repeats off, which I never want. I always want the delays to keep repeating. Why volume after overdrive? Now, this is the one where you do have options. Volume pedal after overdrive allows you to not change the level of distortion. In other words, the gain structure of your tone. You just basically make it louder and quieter with the volume pedal. If you put the volume pedal in front of the overdrive, that can be a really cool sound. But when you bring the volume pedal down, you're also reducing the amount of distortion. So try it both ways and see which way you like best. USB audio interfaces. I use Focusrite USB audio interfaces, and because I use an amp modeler, I generally plug that into the line inputs on my Focusrite USB interface. If you don't want to use an amp modeler, then I would record direct and then add an amp modeling plugin to your recording. Favorite compressor of reading sheet music. I enjoy that. Yes, great. Favorite compressor of all time. That's a hard one. I really like the Wampler Ego. That thing's been a champ. I've had that now for 5 years, and it's worked really well for me. So maybe that's my favorite compressor at this time. All right. Speaker simulator, yeah, I talked about that before. Yes, it does sound acceptable, I think, in the right context. You'll have to try it out and see what you think. Let's see here. Sorry, my chat window keeps popping down. BigSky go-to for all ambient reverb work? No, it's not my go-to. I use BigSky, and this is partially because I have them all. BigSky, the New Neighbor Immerse, that might be closer to being my go-to. The TC Electronic Hall of Fame 2, and the Ventris, the Source Audio Ventris. I would shock people if I shaved. Oh, yeah, I would. I'm not going to do it. Don't worry. Aphex Twin music, do I like it? Not bad. I don't really go out of my way to listen to it, but, every now and then I'm in the mood, and I'll turn on some Aphex Twin. For sure. Favorite post-rock bands? Jacob, and this is your captain speaking. All right. Often get overwhelmed with complex pedals. I just picked a BigSky. Any tips to get? I don't know what the rest is, but don't buy too many. And the reality is that most pedals today, there are some exceptions, of course, but most pedals from the quality companies are all really high quality pedals, and they all can have great tones. All right. Man, you guys are asking a lot of questions. Let me try and go through a few more here, and I'm going to probably wrap up in about 10 minutes or so, okay, just to keep you guys in the loop here. And I'll tell you why at the end. Okay, try Hammock, closest sound style chords. Yeah, Hammock's got a lot of the same textures. I think they're a little more post-rock than I am. I'm more progressive rock because I'm older than those guys, so my influences are different. But I love Hammock. I really respect what they do highly, and they're well worth listening to. Their new album, yeah, that thing rocks. It's really good. Glissando guitar, David Allen. I actually mixed sound for David Allen back in the day. This would have been about 1990 or so. I had the opportunity I had a PA system at the time. He was playing at a small club in Baltimore, and the guy who was organizing it, I knew, he said, "Hey, if I get you free Bruce Coburn tickets, would you mix the concert?" So I did, and it was really fun. David Allen was pretty cool, and he brought a didgeridoo to that show. That was really cool. Steve Hillage, yeah, I like Steve. I would say he was an influence early on for me when I was a teenager. Let's see, George, would I consider sharing more videos involving your production and mixing techniques in Logic Pro? Yes, I will do some more in 2019. I don't want to make this a Logic Pro channel, if that makes sense. Like if you want Logic Pro, like really deep Logic Pro, the Music Tech Help Guy? Yeah, Music Tech Help Guy, that channel. He's really, really good, and he knows so much about Logic Pro. I've actually learned a lot from him, so he's well worth checking out. But in the context of ambient guitar, yeah, I'll definitely do a few more for 2019. Is there any place there's a repository of my patches like for the GT1000? I do not have any specific patches that I put out there for the GT1000. That might be something that I can do in 2019. I do want to come back and revisit the GT1000. I did 4 or 5 videos in the summer through the early fall, and I want to come back to that multi-effects pedal because I think it's got a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential that I've not really leveraged yet. Let's see. BigSky or Boss RV500? It's whatever you think is better for you. I know it's a wishy-washy answer, but that's, yeah. SRC6, Ibanez, how loose are the strings for bending? They are not great for bending. You can bend them, but they are bass strings, so you do need to be aware of that. Have I ever composed an album of liturgical music based mainly around improvisation? No, I have not. I have not done that. I don't know. You never know. Do I watch that pedal show? Occasionally. They have some really good videos for sure. They tend to be a little on the long side, but it's fun to for me to listen to their back and forth. I really kind of like the way they relate to each other. All right, let's see here. Do I use synths in my music? Yes, I do. So the way I use synths when I use them is I'll typically record the guitar part first, and then as I'm mixing it down, I will kind of think about, does this need any other textures? And then if I feel like it does, I'll add in a synthesizer part. That's almost always how I do it. Sometimes I will start with a synth, but that's very unusual for me. All right, so that is, I think I'm going to start wrapping up now. Let me give you one more little taste of the BigSky, the Chorale. Oh yeah, this is really kind of nice. I love the human voice kind of sounds on that one. Yeah, I won't go through that because I really do need to close the live stream down, and I'll tell you why now. One of my daughters is getting married the day after tomorrow, and I got stuff I got to do to get ready for that today and tomorrow. So I told my wife I would stop at 1 p.m. Eastern today so I can switch gears and do that thing. I'm really excited about her getting married, though, so it'll be a lot of fun. And there won't be any ambient guitar at the wedding, although I do have the honor of playing an acoustic guitar song during the service. So I'm really excited about that. Let's see, and then just a couple of last comments. Round wounds or flat wounds? Round wounds for me. So anyhow, I think this is going to be the last video of 2018 for me. Just because, again, of the holiday here in the U.S., the New Year's holiday, and then my family event over the weekend. So I am really looking forward to 2019. Look for a video coming up soon. I'm hoping to shoot it on New Year's Eve with a buddy of mine about ambient guitar and New Year's resolutions. So I'm excited to have a chat about that and share some ideas with you. I think it'll be a follow-on to the recent video I did, the one that's called It's Not About Gear, It's About the Music. So it's going to be a follow-on to that, but with some more specifics. So anyhow, great talking to you all. Great hanging out. Love playing the guitar and the BigSky and answering questions. This will be available as a replay. If you have any other questions or comments, once this thing renders and posts as a replay video, put them in the comments and I will try and answer them. So Happy New Year, all of you, and see you in 2019.